Yeah.
What reading? Oh, look,
Huxley, what are you doing?
large furry creature.
Yeah, there's a big wolf in here.
I can hear you echo.
Oh, weird.
Major.
Yeah, there's a big wolf in here.
How's
How's that?
Watching it? There you go.
No, for some reason I can't comment in the comments section, so I have to comment on my other computer.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Doug reading all about my buddy Douglas Smythe here with the pith hat, helmet, I guess helmets. Reads weird stuff. And he also has a shaving company where he incorporates his interest in the paranormal into his artwork, which we usually talk about. And so this show is kind of about esoteric, weird things and just being generally goofballs.
Hello. It's me and Huxley.
And there's his big dog, Huxley.
Yeah. We're a moving target, this show.
I know, we are. We're early usual. We have my sister in town, and so I'm in California. People can see I'm at Open Minds headquarters here, which is actually very close to the Stars headquarters, really like an hour away. So now, two most important UFO organizations in the world are headquartered in Encinitas, California. Although, if you were to put us on a hierarchy, Open Minds is way higher. Open Minds has been doing this for like 12 years or something. We've been pumping out thousands of articles on our website. And so we much more important to Stars, but they're still very important and we still love them.
You guys pretty much are the nerve ending for all things UFO.
Yeah. Is that a compliment?
That is definitely a compliment. You have your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So that's who we are and what we do. And we've got in our chat, we've got a couple of our buddies. Dirk Bone Smooth made it. Dirk Bone Steel. Bone Smooth.
How do you guys know when we're on? That's amazing.
They get notifications because I've actually got like 40,000 subscribers to this channel. So we could have 10,000 people in here, but
our last show didn't get one comment, and you're talking about 40,000 subscribers. Is it me? It's me.
There's two people. There's Renee and Dirk in here. Renee is always here, and he's got some comments. Let's see. He just says general weird stuff. Rodrigo's here and UFO Storian. Great. Good morning, everybody.
What's up, guys? Sorry for the early.
I shaved it. Oh, cute. I shaved it being my face just a minute ago. Aren't I close to where the Nimitz UFO thing happened? That is true. Renee says, he's disappointed that you don't have a UFO t-shirt. He's noting your Betty Page t-shirt.
It's my business's t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Formula CK6.
And it's not a UFO show. So, I mean, I actually have a clown fruit button, too, one of our latest releases.
That keeps freaking the F out, your little clown logo. He's really freaky. I've got a Roswell shirt. So my shirt's funny. I got this shirt at Walmart, and I don't know, you know how we are. You've got to do this too. You know, you got to ask. It's like your mom or something. Ask permission before buying stuff. It can be kind of annoying of your significant other. You know,
look at the shirts I wear. Clearly, I'm not asking permission. I sell shirts.
I'm going to get this shirt. And Karen's like, well, only if you wear it to the gym because it's a gym shirt. And I said, totally, I will. And of course, I have. And I do get funny looks.
I wear the shirts in this relationship. I've kind of been known over the years for being like a billboard for everything because I have a huge t-shirt collection. It's ridiculous. I have t-shirts that I'll never wear again. That I can't part with them is what it all comes down to. But I've been collecting t-shirts for years and years and years. And there was a coffee shop I worked back in college, and people would come in, not for the coffee, not for the cake, but to see what shirt I'd be wearing that day, because it was always something weird and bizarre. People would actually give me shirts to wear, like to advertise their band or whatever, because I wore a lot of just wacky shirts. Yeah, to this day I still do. Even though the older I get, the more I when I stand next to my older friends that are, when we go places, they're dressed up nice, they're in suits and stuff like that. Like you, for example, typically when you're, seen outside, you're wearing a jacket or something, and I'm standing there in shorts and a t-shirt. I look like I'm 12. I look like Dennis the Menace next to a lot of you guys. So
it is kind of funny because we see each other a lot at conferences where I'm usually speaking. So yeah, I'm like in a suit, and then there's you.
Yeah, and I'm God knows what I'm wearing when you see me, but I'm just Gen X is what it all comes down to, and this is how we roll. I mean, I'm sorry, and I really do feel bad about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. I've accepted it, and now it's time for everyone else to, I guess, is what it all comes down to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. Still on t-shirts, people are they like the t-shirt. Renee says, wow, UFO t-shirt from Walmart. Here's a pro tip. When you go to Roswell, Walmart has a whole UFO t-shirt section as well. The Roswell Walmart. And I've got a good picture of Nick Pope about 10 years ago, maybe, in front of the Walmart in Roswell, because they changed it. Almost all of the big stores had big UFOs and stuff on the front. And Walmart had these UFOs and stuff in their front of their, store, which was really cool. Yeah, like you should see the Roswell McDonald's. It's a giant.
Oh, UFO. Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
And so the Starbucks is the same. Everything's like that. And
I thought you were talking about in general. I was like, because I don't know what Walmart's doing these days. I thought you were saying across the board they were doing.
Oh, no, just in Roswell.
Yeah. Same thing with Sedona. Sedona had a few UFO themed places too. Remember?
Oh, well, they've got lots of weird themed places, but the Walmart has a UFO section, and it's the best place to go get your UFO t-shirts in Roswell because they're cheaper and they have cool styles. So that is a pro tip. When you're in Roswell, check out the Walmart. And as you mentioned before, people might be a little disappointed with with the museum in Roswell. Sometimes people are. So that's what you might want to check out. Anyway,
I mean, it was so bad here. What's up?
We haven't even gotten close to the topic of the day.
I just want to go piggyback on what you were just saying, though, and just to Roswell Museum. I don't know if I've ever covered it on this show, but I was there in Roswell to do a podcast, and for a few reasons. But I brought up my NASA jumpsuit with me, my flight suit, and a helmet. I looked ridiculous, but I was trying to do a photo shoot for a product we were about to release. And so I thought the museum would be a good place for that. I actually asked permission. I was there. So I'm walking around the museum wearing this flight suit, and people are stopping me to get their picture taken with me. They thought I worked there. It was ridiculous.
That's funny.
I was changing into this flight costume in another room there. Like, I mean, I just looked out of my mind, and Fran's filming me standing in front of the aliens. And yeah, it really, and I do like the museum. I don't like the rest of Roswell. The rest of Roswell was kind of a letdown, like all the little tchotchke shops and whatnot. They all sell the same stuff. So believe it or not, Walmart is actually more refreshing than the stuff you can get on the streets, or not necessarily on the streets, but in the stores in Roswell. And the Target too. Target too had a selection.
Which kind of probably bums out the people in the city because they have good products and they their prices are low. But at the same time, these little stores are trying to make money and they're kind of expensive. So
yeah, but you know what? They're not like they're counterfeit legit. If you're selling the same thing as your neighbor, you're hurting your neighbor too. I mean, like what these stores should be doing is selling their own unique thing, their own interesting thing. Even in Hawaii, when you go to the ABC stores, every ABC store sells at least one different thing. So it keeps you going to the different ABC stores. If anyone knows
what would be a good TV show, because I know this is the case. First of all, I went to college in a small town, Grand Junction, Colorado.
Never heard of it.
And I worked for the newspaper and the radio station, and which were bigger publications for that town because it was a small town. The radio station could be heard throughout the town. And so we were kind of a part of the town, and the local politics, there's just always fighting. And I know that happens in Roswell. So I'll bet those stores probably compete. They see one person has a product, so they buy it. I would bet That would make a really good show, almost like Storage Wars, where these UFO stores are fighting. I'm sure this happens because I've seen it myself.
Oh, I'm sure
These
too.
store owners get so frustrated and fighting with each other. That'd
But
probably
it's
be a pretty good show.
It would be a good show, and we should actually consider pitching that to someone. But it's mediocrity all around. I don't think the right people are there. If there was the right people pouring money into Roswell, we'd see a lot more cool things. I actually think it needs an amusement park too. I think they should take advantage of the fact that Roswell is what it is and build an amusement park or
they tried.
Did they really?
They even bought a lot downtown, and one of the stores across the street from the museum has a whole display because I was even in one of their presentations. I think when I was with MUFON, they came and did a presentation with us because they wanted to give MUFON a special room because they were building this hotel museum that looked like a UFO with rides and everything.
They should totally do that.
They just never got the money. They said for sure they were going to do it, but it never happened.
The story's there. I mean, it's like it just needs barely a push to make that happen. Someone just needs to invest in it, but it would be it'd be fun.
Yeah,
it would be fun. I'm sure it would be. It would turn into everything else. It would be exploitive and so on and so forth, and cheapen ufology. But
I'll say this: they're struggling because of the pandemic, of course, a lot. Because you know something like this, the people aren't going there. So if you want to go check out their online store for the museum. I don't even know that they have much of one, but if you can, go check it out and buy some because they are struggling.
Yeah, they have copies of Blue Book too that you can pick up from them as well, and some other tchotchke. But I think I walked out of there with a stack of stuff when I was there because they had more unique options. And then the other stores, it just again it was a big letdown. But anyways,
why are
we are?
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
I don't know. Well, folks, again, it's October now. I thought it would be fitting to do something spooky, and I just picked up a book quite recently called "Gone at Midnight." It's the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. And
you're always talking about this.
Well, this is just one of those things. It's kind of like the Mandela effect, how like the Bernstein Bears, like out of all the different theories you hear surrounding that one, the Bernstein Bears is really what gets me, where it's like, okay, this is really hitting home because I remember this differently. Like, I mean, that one really this one does too when it comes to paranormal activity and events. However, could be something else altogether. But this takes place at the Cecil Hotel. One of the most haunted, as they say, hotels in the world with such a sordid history. So I thought we could really dig our teeth into this one. And, I don't know if this audience knows of it yet or not. Yeah, see,
it sounds like they do. Eric says this case is amazing. Renee says the Asian girl in the hotel water tower. Yeah, so tell us about it. And then this guy, Captain Scamp, I don't know what he's trying to say. He says, I once saw a video of more guys getting into a phone booth than watching you live.
Doesn't take much, Mr. Scamp.
You're laughing. So you understand what he's saying? I'm completely confused. I don't get it.
Well, I think it's like the old college, how many guys can you fit in a phone booth type thing that you do when you're in college because there's nothing else to do except study, Yeah. I'm guessing.
Anyway, yeah.
Or maybe they're all a bunch of superheroes. Well, okay. The case, first of all, in this story where people were drinking the tablet. Yes. So are you not familiar with this at all, Alejandro?
The audience isn't. Not everybody in the audience. So you got to describe it to people as
I know. But I'm curious. Do you know about this?
You and I have talked about this case quite a bit.
Okay. All you white guys look the same to me, so I often forget who I'm talking to. But okay. So before I get into the book, I guess we'll just do a little background. I guess we'll start with the Hotel Cecil. I have notes. Okay. Again, back to the fact that is considered one of the most haunted places by paranormal folk in the world.
Really?
Oh yeah, because in fact, the other nicknames for this hotel is, or one of the nicknames for the hotel is Suicide Hotel. if that tells you anything. But this was built in 1924. And then they opened their doors in 1927. Originally, the clientele they were looking for was traveling businessmen back in downtown Los Angeles. However, the Biltmore was being built at the same time, as well as other more successful hotels, or would prove to be more successful hotels. And then the Depression hit, and this happened to be right on Skid Row, this hotel. So the timing was a little off, and as was the location. And as we all know by now, location is key when it comes to building an establishment that you expect to succeed. So I've printed up a list of timelines of the suicides and deaths that have occurred at the Hotel Cecil. On November 19th, 1931, now this is, again, just a few years after it was built, Manhattan Beach resident W.K. Norton, 46, was found dead in his room after ingesting poisonous capsules. A week prior, he had checked into the hotel under a pseudonym, James Willies from Chicago. Norton's death appears to be one of the earliest known suicides in the hotel. So that's starting in 1931. In September 1932, a maid found Benjamin Dodich. I don't know, might be German. 25, dead from a self-inflicted gun wound to the head. He did not leave a suicide note. That's only a year later. In 1934, a former Army Medical Corps Sergeant Louis D. Borden, 53, was found dead in his room at the Hotel Cecil. He had slashed his throat with a razor, and he left several notes. Jesus. He was thorough. Very thorough. In 1937.
In the family or something?
Possibly. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe it was a notebook.
Would you leave your dog a note?
I would take my dog with me. I don't know what that would look like, but I would take him with me. In March 1937, Grace E. Margot fell from the 9th-story window. They say fell from the 9th-story window, but we know what that means. Her fall was broken by telephone wires, which were wrapped around her body when they found her after the fact. She later died at the now-demolished Georgia Street Receiving Hospital. Police were unable to determine whether her death was the result of an accident or a suicide. But, I mean, if you look at – can you throw up one of the pictures of the outside of the hotel? If you look at the outside of this hotel, I mean, you got to be really trying to get yourself out the window. You don't accidentally fall out one of those windows. Yeah, so you can see that top photo right there. In 1938, Roy Thompson, 35, jumped from Cecil's top floor and was found on the skylight of a neighboring building. He was staying at the Cecil for several weeks. In 1939, naval officer Irwin C. Neblett, 39, was found dead in his room after ingesting poison. It's interesting the amount of people that have killed themselves with poison in this place. I mean, people have died from everything. Poison, gunshots, even drowning, which we'll get to. In January 1940, teacher Dorothy Skeeger, 45, ingested poison while staying at the Cecil and was reported by the Los Angeles Times to be near death. No further reports were published about her condition. So I don't know if she died or not. 1944, Dorothy Jean. Oh, this one's good. Dorothy Jean Purcell, 19, was sharing a room at the hotel with her boyfriend. You know, I've been digging into this case for the last I've been writing a short story about it, so I've been digging into it a lot over the last couple of years. Yeah, but some of these stories, the details, they're kind of all over the place. And this one, it's saying this 19-year-old Dorothy Jean Purcell was sharing a room with her boyfriend. In other versions of the story, it's her husband. He was, Ben Levine, 38. Purcell, who had apparently been unaware that she was pregnant, went into labor. She later testified that she did not want to disrupt the sleeping boyfriend, so she went into the bathroom where she gave birth to a baby boy. Thinking the baby was dead, she threw him out the window, and he landed on the roof of an adjacent building. Purcell was later charged with murder, and 3 psychologists, then known as alienists, testified that she was mentally confused at the time of the incident. In January 1945, she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Yeah, that's a creepy one. In fact, there are reports of crying babies being heard in the hotel.
Well, how did they know the baby wasn't dead?
Because it was breathing oxygen. They found out after the fact. Looking at its lungs were expanded as if it was breathing.
Interesting.
They have ways. In fact, in some of these, the sleuthing and the detective work in some of these is actually pretty interesting. And we'll get to some of that. In November 1947, Robert Smythe, sang for The Cure, 35, died after jumping from one of Cecil's 7th floor windows. On October 22nd, 1954, San Francisco stationery firm employee Helen Gurney, 55, jumped from the window of her 7th floor room and landed on top of Cecil's marquee, which you can see in that picture. 1 week prior, she had registered at the hotel under the name Margaret Brown. But yeah, so on that landing right there, she landed, ironically enough.
Oh, right there. Yeek.
Yeah. And that's happened with a couple other jumpers where they've landed on other floors. On February 11th, 1962, Julia Frances Moore, 50, jumped from the window of her 8th floor room and landed in a 2nd-story interior light well. So there you go. She did not leave a suicide note among her possessions. There was a bus ticket from St. Louis, 59 cents and change, and an Illinois bank book showing a balance of $1,800. So a lot of these, when you don't leave a note, you got to wonder. I mean, this is on Skid Row. There are a lot of sketchy people around. Are these murders we're looking at also being confused or just written off? As, sometimes they are. Police just want Occam's razor when it comes to solving these crimes. So it's easier to write down suicide than have to investigate. October 12th, 1962, Pauline Otten. Oh, this is a great one. And I don't mean great. I mean, it's kind of complicated. Pauline Otten, 27, jumped from the window of her 9th floor after an argument with her estranged husband, Dewey. He had left the room prior to Otten's suicide. Otten landed on a pedestrian, George. Now, this story also, I've heard the details confused where she actually landed on her husband, but that isn't, in fact, the case. She landed on a George Giannini, 65, killing them both instantly. As there were no witnesses, police initially thought Otten and Giannini committed suicide together. However, it was soon determined, this is what I mean by the detective work, it was soon determined that Giannini had his hands in his pockets at the time of death, and he was still wearing shoes. Had he jumped, his shoes would have likely fallen during the fall or upon impact, and his hands would not have been in his pockets. Imagine that. This place is so sketchy, it's dangerous to walk by it. When we were in LA for Alien Con last year, Fran and I took an Uber over to this place, and I only got so close to it. She remembers me saying, yeah, Fran was like, you stopped. You wouldn't go any further. I don't remember this. I don't remember stopping. I did take pictures, but she was like, yeah, you would refuse to go on. And it was kind of weird because you're not typically like that. So
I didn't know that. You didn't tell me you did that. Maybe I forgot.
Yeah, I did.
Staying too far from there.
Yeah, oddly enough.
Now it's called Stay on Main. Yeah. They changed the whole name.
Yeah, they after 80 years or whatnot of having the name Cecil Hotel, they thought it would be better for business if they changed the name, especially after this case where the main case we're going to get into about Elisa Lam. June 4th, 1964, a hotel worker discovered Pigeon Goldie, a retired telephone operator, dead in her room. She had been raped, stabbed, and beaten, and her room was ransacked. And she was well known in the area. She had earned the nickname Pigeon Goldie because she fed the birds in the nearby Pershing Square. Near her body was the Los Angeles Dodgers cap she always wore and a paper sack full of birdseed. Hours after her murder. Oh, this is a weird part too. Hours after her murder, Jacques B. Ellinger, 29, was seen walking through Pershing Square in bloodstained clothing. He was arrested and charged with Osgood's murder, but was later cleared of the crime. The murder remains unsolved. I need more detail. I mean, how are you walking around covered in blood and then cleared of the crime after the fact? I don't know.
That's weird. I know. Then where'd the blood come from?
I mean, maybe he discovered her. I don't know. It's bizarre. And I wish there was more detail on that. And I haven't been able to find any. A lot of these leave more questions than answers. On December 20th, 1975, a still unidentified woman, approximately 23 years old, jumped from her 12th floor window onto the Cecil's 2nd floor roof again. She had registered at the hotel in December under a false name, Allison Lowell, and was staying in room 327. On September 1st, 1992, a man was found deceased in the alley behind the Cecil. Authorities believe that the descendant either fell from, jumped from, or was pushed from the hotel's 15th floor at the time of his death. Interestingly enough, there's no 13th floor on the Cecil. Like many hotels back in the day, they didn't do a 13th floor. They would just jump right to 14.
if you were to build a hotel or a building that was 13 floors or more, would you have a 13th floor?
I would call the hotel 13th floor and not have one.
Oh, that's an interesting take. I
Uh-huh.
like it. I would have a 13th floor.
Yeah.
And I would call my hotel, we've got a 13th floor.
Then I'd sue you for copyright infringement.
No, because mine's different. That would be
Not really.
That would be my edge over yours.
It caused customer confusion, however, and that I would have a case right there. On February 19th, 2013, the naked body of Elisa Lam, here we go, a 21-year-old Canadian student. I should actually probably read this a little slower. Okay, so this begins our case. Actually, before I even get into that, I should mention that in 1984 and 1985, this is the thing too about the Cecil Hotel. 2 serial killers lived there because there's a permanent occupancy. Or they're cheap, not aside from cheap rooms, you can also live there too on certain floors. And during their killing sprees, these 2 serial killers at different times in history lived at the Cecil Hotel. The first one being the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. In 1985 or 1984 to 1985, he was staying at this hotel. He committed 13 murders while staying there. When he was done killing somebody, he would go behind the hotel, change out of his blood-soaked clothes, not even change, take off his blood-soaked clothes and dispose of them in the dumpster. Then he would walk in his underwear through the lobby to the elevators, back up to his room. No one noticed this. If that tells you anything about the clientele at the Hotel Cecil. And then almost 10 years later, in 1991, Jack Unterweger also stayed there, and he was strangling women, this guy. Strangling women with their bras. And he was a writer actually in Germany. He was actually a well-known writer and our news reporter, not necessarily news reporter, journalist, we'll say, who covered a lot of these like dark stories. The Night Stalker was one of them. So he was following in the footsteps, if you will, of the Night Stalker. So that makes it less synchronistic when I say there's 2 serial killers lived there. One was trying to almost emulate to a certain extent the other one, I think. And so that was in 1991. It is kind of weird. And then there's also the Black Dahlia connection in the 1940s, supposedly. Really? And this is disputed a lot, but there are in certain forums and certain circles online, they talk about her, where she, before her death or murder, was drinking at the bar in the Hotel Cecil or the Cecil Hotel.
I'm going to give you just real quick, I'm going to zoom in on you and in a dramatic fashion, tell people, give them just a little bit so they can know what the Black Dahlia was.
Okay. That's zooming in.
Yeah.
The Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia. I knew you were going to ask this question. The Black Dahlia was killed, I think it was 1947. I could be wrong. And she was a young starlet. And she was found dismembered, like cut in half in the early morning hours of, I don't know the dates exactly because I didn't think you were really going to ask this question, but it was the most like publicized murder of the time. In fact, it was the first sensational movie I'd say of the last century, a murder of the last century. And I mean, obviously with her name too, the Black Dahlia that they gave her in the papers, but her name, I think it was short. Her last name was short. And actually, you know what? I put some bookmarks in the book because there's a correlation between the Black Dahlia and Elisa Lam. Or Elisa Lam, we'll say it with my gringo accent. But okay, so the correlation between the two is both have names derived from Elizabeth because her name is Elizabeth Short. That was the real name of the Black Dahlia. Both have names derived from Elizabeth. That's the one thing about this book, I'll say, is there's a lot of synchronicity going on. There's a lot of synchronicity going on in this. It's eerie how much synchronicity is going on here. But both have names derived from Elizabeth. Both were women in their early 20s traveling alone, frequenting public transportation. Both of them had loose travel plans and were known only known to themselves. They were both petite, attractive brunettes with personalities described as charismatic and outgoing. Both also suffered from depression. Each one traveled from San Diego to downtown Los Angeles in January. Each one was last seen in a downtown hotel. Neither woman's appearance was immediately reported, or disappearance rather, was immediately reported. Both were missing for a number of days before they were discovered dead in a shocking location. And the deaths of both of these unfortunate young women has inspired enormous media attention and speculation. It's true.
There she is, right? There's Elizabeth.
Yeah, there's the
Short.
Black Dahlia. Now, the irony there is she was, she set off for California to see her name in lights for fame and fortune, and she was more famous in death, as we will see also with Elisa.
Yeah, Black Dahlia is pretty popular. I mean, it's created a lot of television shows, a lot of the kind of the pulp detective type of stuff around LA is inspired by that case. It's been a very influential weird case in LA.
Yes, in fact, what's his name who created the pulp genre? I just lost you. Where was it? With The Big Sleep. Wow, why can I escape his name? His name escapes me. It's who wrote The Big Sleep? Guys, forum.
It was directed by Howard Hawks.
No, not the book. Not the movie.
Chandler.
Raymond Chandler. There we go. Duh. Chandler. He also knew about the Hotel Cecil. In fact, he wrote about the Hotel Cecil too. So he was familiar with the Hotel Cecil, the clientele, and especially the Black Dahlia at the time. So that puts us into what we're here to talk about. Elisa Lam. She was a 20-year-old.
Let me ask you a question first, though. Sorry to interrupt. But Eric brings up a good point then. With all of this stuff going on, Eric said he's obviously familiar with this case, too, because he started about the details before you even got into it. He said with all the suicide and everything, something bizarre is going on there, like some kind of weird energy. What do you think of that?
Well, yeah, there's actually, some people who believe in that sort of thing says the veil is thin there. There's definitely, and again, with all these synchronistic events that we're about to delve into, I mean, it's weird, Alejandro. However, it's on Skid Row. This is the audience of Skid Row. You're going to have violent things happening in this location. I mean, it's a cheap place to live, to stay. The clientele, I mean.
Well, you can stay on the street. Like, how many people have been to Skid Row that are in the chat? Let us know, because if you haven't been to Skid Row, it is, the streets are full of people just living on the streets.
In tents, tent city.
Yeah, makeshift tents. It is,
and it's always been like that. It never changed after the Depression. It never picked back up again. It's always attracted a certain type of clientele, and so
it's like being in a third world country.
Yeah, it is.
Right there in downtown Los Angeles. It's kind of strange if you haven't been there before. It's a bit surreal.
So can we blame it on weird, on the paranormal, or is also location? I don't know. Anyways, so January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam, a Canadian college student, she was attending the University of British Columbia. She decided to take the next semester off. She didn't register for classes. Instead, did her world tour and headed to California.
Little Canadian. I feel so scared for Canadians visiting America. It's got to be such a scary experience for them.
It was a different country in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, poor little Canadians. Be careful, little Canadians. Yes. Americans are
Canadian,
wild.
Yeah, as David Bowie says, I'm afraid of Americans. Actually, he's not saying much anymore. But 2013, yeah, she heads on her trip to find herself. I mean, she was suffering from depression. She had a Tumblr account. A lot of these things are still up there online. A Tumblr account where she would document her bouts with depression and she was bipolar. It's like one of the things. Yeah, she was bipolar. So she was suffering from bipolar depression. She had manic episodes, not suicidal though in any way, shape, or form, or up until this point she wasn't. Not to say that that's what did her in or she did herself in, but there's also speculation there too. And again, it's just the synchronicity in itself is wacky. So anyway, she checks in on the 26th, fifth floor. She originally rented out a hostel room where she was sharing it with other folks, but two of the people sharing the room with her reported her as being odd. So the hotel moved her to her own room. So right there, I get a little red flag. There's something off. And she goes missing. she's been up until the 31st of January. She checks in on the 26th. And during her entire trip, she's been checking with her parents every single day, calling them on her phone. I should also note that she lost her phone. She was using another phone. It was either her friend's phone or she bought a burner phone, but she had a second phone. And she'd been reporting back to her parents every day, checking in with them. But on the 31st of January, they stopped hearing from her and they became worried. And she was gone. After that, that was the last time they heard from her. They reported, they called the police station day after saying, we haven't heard from our little girl. We don't know what's going on exactly. Can you look into this? And that's when the police showed up. And she was supposed to check out that day too, but all of her possessions were still in the room. So they started to search for her. Cops showed up. They searched every room in the hotel, supposedly. There was dogs called in as well. It's never clear to me whether they were search dogs or cadaver dogs. I think they were search dogs at first. So they scoured the entire hotel looking for her, didn't find a thing. They even searched the roof, I'm told, as well in this book. And until guests started complaining, this is what happened. Guests started complaining about 18 days later that for the last few days, their water was tasting funny. There was slow water pressure or no water pressure at all. And the water was coming out dark brown, black. It looked funky, but it was the Hotel Cecil, so this stuff was to be expected. A lot of people thought it was rust, but it had a weird taste to it as well. People are showering in this and drinking this water. Tasted weird. Some people reported it tasted kind of sweet, but something was off. So the maintenance man was sent in to figure out what's going on. And in this book, it's great because typically when you read this story, I'll read about the story, they rush right to what the maintenance person going up on the roof to check the water towers. He actually did a little bit of research first. He was going floor to floor to see what was going on, interviewing different, guests or people that lived there, but what exactly they were experiencing with their water. So he delves into that. This author does anyways when he interviewed the maintenance man. But eventually the maintenance man makes his way up to the roof to check the water tanks up there. And there's 4 water tanks on the roof. They are 8 by 4 feet in dimension, 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide or diameter. However, I've been reading different reports there too. Some reports they're 10 feet tall, others they're 8 feet tall, give or take a few feet. So he gets up there. He sees, this is another thing too that's a little iffy. He sees one of the doors to the water tank on top of it is open. And he peers inside. When he finally gets, it's tough to get in there in between these water tanks, and you have to climb up a little ladder, and then he peers down inside, and that's when he sees a body floating in there and clothes. And he's found Elisa Lam at this point. However, cops supposedly searched this entire building. Every nook and cranny, I think is their exact words, including the roof. How could they not see the open door on a water tank? I mean, it was flipped open, the latch. And it's 18 inches long. It's 18 by 18 inches. I don't know if it's circular or rectangular, but supposedly, according to the maintenance man, it was open. And they overlooked this. They didn't check this. Otherwise, they would have found her immediately. So let's see. Any questions so far?
No, Renee says soup kitchens in Skid Rows. I'm not sure why he said that, but he might have been tapping into my brain because.
Are you hungry?
No, but my sister. So right, I'm in Open Mind headquarters here in Encinitas, and my sister is up north in Orange County, but she just a couple months ago went and helped at a soup kitchen on Skid Row.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Synchronicity is abound here today, folks. So eventually they find her. Cops come in, and now it's weird. They don't know what they're looking at here. Are they looking at a murder? Are they looking at a suicide? It looks very suspicious because the door to the roof is locked, should be locked anyways. The only people that have access to it are the employees there. If you do try, it was in 2013. Sorry. If you do open the door, an alarm sounds on the 14th and 15th floor. No alarms were heard. There is a couple other access points, but you have to take the fire escape. And if you look at these fire escapes, again, they're over 80 years old. They're rusty, they're rickety, and she would have to go out one of the windows. I think it's hallway access, get on the fire escape, and then climb a little ladder up to the roof. So there's that. And so now they're digging into this. They're trying to find out if there is foul play involved. They're doing interviews. They're asking the hotel for surveillance cameras. Do you have any surveillance cameras? And they're like, well, only a couple of them work, but we'll give you what we got. And that's when they turn over this video. Cue up the video. Now, this is a video of her.
Cue the video.
In the elevator on her way up to the 14th floor. No one really knows what's going on in this video. And if we're going to watch right now, it's very creepy. It's slightly disturbing, but check this out.
Only slightly?
Okay, it's very disturbing. Everything looks fine.
Boring.
Now, the reason why she's leaning over is she typically wears glasses, but she lost her glasses. Her glasses were never found during this either. But watch. Doors still open. It's like she's hiding from someone. It's such odd behavior.
I remember this because I was really fascinated when this all went down.
Oh, yeah. It's so bloody creepy. Does she see somebody? Is she hallucinating? The door's still not closing.
It is like she's hiding from someone. So maybe there was some, I mean, in LA, especially by Skid Row.
Oh, yeah. Now watch this, though.
Some weird characters can be around.
Watch her hands. She does this thing. This like gesticulation. Touches her head. And then she does these weird like... Let's see it. This video is 2.5 minutes long, so you can still see her shorts right there. It's not skirt, it's shorts.
Yeah, she's.
But then watch it. So her body language has changed. She seems upset almost, but it also looks playful too at some points, like she's almost playing hide and go seek. And here she is pushing all the buttons. What?
Yeah, especially before she seemed kind of playful, and even this is kind of
all the buttons
kind of playful.
Can you pause it for a second? So right there, she's pushed all the buttons now. And supposedly, this is touched upon briefly in this book, that's a strategy for women traveling alone. So men don't know what floor you're getting off on, or creepers or whatever. People don't know exactly what floor you're getting off on. There's also
interesting phrase that you use there.
What's that?
So people don't know which floor you're getting off on.
Oh, I see what you did there. And she's also on the 14th floor, where this is permanent residents that live there. But now let's look at what she starts doing here. You can hit play again. Okay. Watch her hands. It's almost unnatural. Like she's blind and trying to feel out something. Like she's talking to somebody. What is that? Now she's like almost
drunk and being silly.
Hallucinations.
Or on some kind of drug. I mean, who knows? She could have been.
That affects your nerves almost. Like the stuff she's doing with her hands is like, and then there she goes. And that's the last you see of her. That's it. Now look, the door's still open.
But she's kind of weird.
I mean, she did push every button on the panel, so the elevator could be behaving differently.
But there must be a function maybe on that elevator that allows you to do that. If I understand right, most elevators have that function. It's usually turned off and only used for maintenance, but maybe.
Now look at this. Closes, but then I believe it opens up again.
That's what just gets me too. I don't know. It's a young woman, student from Canada. It's so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
And tragic.
Now there's an elevator game. There it goes. It closes again. I think that's the last time. But in Korea, there is an elevator game, or at least this is the origin of it. And what you're supposed to do, it's like kind of like a warp zone type thing. Oh, there it goes. Opens again. No one's there. But it's this, you can find it online, this elevator game, and it's to take you to the other world. You have to find a hotel building, or a building in general, that's at least 10 stories high, and there's a sequence of numbers that you are supposed to press. And at the 5th floor, a woman is supposed to come in and ride. She doesn't say anything. She's silent. She rides with you to the 1st floor. Now you can get out or stay. If you leave, she says, "Where are you going?" If you stay, you take the elevator next to the 10th floor and you get out, and you're supposedly, if there's no one else there, you're in the other world or this alternate universe. I might be getting the details a little screwed up here. I've only did a little research on this, but it's a bizarre game. Some people suspect that's what she was doing. There is a playful element in the beginning of the video. It almost looks like she's playing hide and go seek too with somebody. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird. So yes, she was found in the tank, completely naked. Some of her, I think the hotel key was with her. No phone, no glasses. She was known to wear glasses. The opening to the tank is only 18 inches in diameter. So it's almost like she would have had to go in there head first. What was she doing up there? Was it a suicide attempt? She was, bipolar. She could be having an episode here. She was on a few different antidepressants, a couple different antidepressants, and then mood stabilizers on top of that. So she was on a cocktail of things to treat her depression or her bipolarism. So was it drugs? Although when they tested the body after the fact during the autopsy, there was no hallucinogenics in there, and there was just barely traces of her medication. So it looks like she might not have been taking her medication on the last day. But for this to happen, she's not wearing her glasses. Somehow she makes her way up to the water tanks on the roof without setting off the alarm, the door. So that means she scaled the fire escape up there. It just seems, after watching her behavior on this elevator, it's just hard to believe. I mean, really, that's what happened. There's the elevator game again. Was she murdered by a staff member? Because you did need a key. They also, some people think or believe that the video we watched was tampered with. There's a minute missing. So there may have been someone in that video too that we're not supposed to see, or the cops weren't supposed to see. Some people suspect that it was slowed down, the video, which are stretched out, so it's maintained a certain amount of time that the cops were promised. And that's what makes her behavior look a little weird, is it was slowed down. But if you speed it up, supposedly it looks more normal. I find that hard to believe, though. That's just strange behavior at any speed.
Yeah.
Then it goes, then you get the conspiracy theorists that really go. There's weird synchronicity here. And that's all you need, is just a little bit of synchronicity to take off in the conspiracy world. There's some people that believe she was killed by the government. Now, I don't know if it was the Canadian government or the U.S. government, because
Canadian government doesn't people.
It's the world government, I guess.
The U.S. probably taking out Canadians.
Well, because
they're too nice,
I'm sure. Well, I guess weeks before, she tweeted something about an invisibility cloak that the Canadian government was working on. And it is, I found it on her Twitter account. She did post this, but it's from Huffington Post. And the tweet itself looks like she just pushed the retweet button. Doesn't look like it was her. But this is an article that everyone had read, or a lot of people have read. Why was she,
I was writing for Huffington Post at that time.
Possibly. This could have something linked back to you, as all things do. But so there's that. And it goes into a little more detail, but I didn't really find anything that made sense when it came to the invisibility cloak. And then, this is where it gets really spooky. The Dark Water movie from 2002. This is a Japanese horror film. And there are characters in this that are so close to her. There's so many parallels, rather, to the story. And that's covered in this book as well.
Here's some. So this must be are those the water things right there?
Those are the water tank. I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have been having you.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah,
she was in one of these, huh?
Yeah, she was in one of those. Since then, their lock's been installed, but that's the hotel itself. Inside the hotel, that's the 14th floor. The outside of the elevators down below. All these photos are available inside the book. This is
actually the 13th floor, though. in reality.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Good
It
point.
doesn't have a 13th floor, which is again, they think they're gonna the ghost like or the whatever going on. Supernatural's not that stupid. They might not even know what your little letters mean for numbers.
That's true. They think
have,
they know they're on the unlucky floor.
If they're demons, they're using like they use Satan's script or whatever.
Satan's numerical number system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And numerical system probably completely ours. So they don't know what those numbers represent.
They're like
so
nice try humans. Yeah.
3, 4, it's the one. Let's play.
Okay, here's the part when the parallel between what we just saw, or her story, her true story of Elisa Lam, versus the Dark Water movie that came out in 2002. Okay, then you get to the Dark Water movies, which seem to have predicated in a fictional setting exactly what was to transpire in the hotel years later. Clyde's guest, Frank and Genevieve, explained, okay, so this is someone talking about it. In 2000, okay. Sorry, there's a lot here. It's extremely similar. And then there was also an American version that starred Jennifer Connelly in 2005. Connelly's character is named Dahlia.
Really? Oh, yes. I'm sure that was inspired by Dahlia.
Yeah, of course it was. And she's, but the Black Dahlia, kind of spooky. But so yeah, she's historically associated with the Hotel Cecil, the Black Dahlia. The little girl in the movie who plays her daughter is wearing a red jacket, and in the 2005 version, it looks remarkably similar to Elisa's red hoodie. In the daughter's name also in the movie is Cece, which is just one letter away from Cecil. But the kicker, the creepy coincidence that played a role in the Lam case going viral online, is that both films, the main character, the little girl, falls into a rooftop water tank and drowns. The water from the tank creeps down into the rooms and the water supply. Sound familiar?
And that was in 2002, like 11 years prior to the Lam incident.
Not only that, it doesn't end there. The films both feature scenes in which the characters are pressing buttons in the elevator while being watched on the surveillance screen. The framing of these surveillance videos looks like an exact setup to Elisa's real-life footage on YouTube. The behavior of the characters in the elevators is also very similar to Elisa's behavior at the Hotel Cecil. Yeah, so that's another synchronistic event happening here that makes you go,
You know, and when you start, like, try to speculate what could have happened that would explain these events, even if you're talking normal, it's so difficult. So Eric Miller just said, it's difficult to imagine someone duping her to climb up and then her in up there. Even hard to imagine her up there dead. That's what I came back to. Carrying her dead doesn't seem realistic at all. If she was killed before, how would a body's pretty heavy, and to avoid detection, especially if she was done in on the 14th floor and then carried up to the roof and then through the doors without making the alarm go off and then up the ladder, throw to the water, that would be really hard to do, it seems like.
You would need to know someone on the inside that worked there, so you had a key card to get access to the roof.
Yeah.
There's evidence that people did hang out on the roof. Some people that live there have had beers on the roof. There's graffiti on the roof. If two people lured her up there while she was on the 14th floor, or maybe they were hanging out with her, so it could happen, but it gets weirder still.
Okay.
At this another synchronistic event that is totally. This is synchronicity at its finest. During the same time of this, when this is all going down, there's an outbreak of tuberculosis happening in the Skid Row area. The test for TB they're giving out at that time, the name of the test, guess what it's called?
Elisa
Lam Elisa is the name of the TB test they're doing at the time.
That's weird. I guess
That is weird that you guessed it. Clearly, you're familiar with this case.
No, but I didn't know this part.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No,
yes, that is real.
Really weird.
So some suspect, again, with the government, that she was the vector to spread TB around. This is one of the stories. Two is she never existed. What they did was create Elisa Lam to take, for SEO reasons, to bury the information online about these tests for some reason. I don't know why you would care about that.
I love. I think John Alexander has it right. John Alexander is a colonel who actually is one of the characters in Men Who Stare at Goats. Ron Johnson made this movie about when the Army was doing paranormal kind of experiments and stuff. And John Alexander's one of the guys. He's a friend of mine, good dude. And he always says when it comes to conspiracies, really, on the one hand, we think that the government is a bunch of bumbling idiots who can't get anything right. But on the other hand, there's some kind of omnipotent, powerful, they're able to
coordinate
away with these conspiracies, outsmart everybody, keep everything secret. It's so funny because if this really happened and there were these bureaucrats that were trying to hide something, when we just, they'd bumble it because they bumble themselves into the mess, and they bumble the cover-ups, which is usually what happens in these sort of things. So it's really kind of interesting to me that often when people come up with conspiracy theories, the first thing they think is government. Government had to do something.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's made it to our age, especially me, owning my own business and having for the last 8 years, I've dealt with incompetence on so many different surprising levels. It's ridiculous. It blows my mind. I think I was saying years back, like there seems to be the pandemic that's going around is incompetence. It's catchy. And I was acting like it was a new thing. It's not a new thing at all. Humans have always been incompetent at every level. So for the government to pull off a lot of these things, I would, back in the day, I believe that stuff too. I was like, oh yeah, totally. But knowing what I know now, the amount of incompetence in the human race, it says otherwise.
It's staggering.
It blows my mind. I think, some things you can pin on that is inflation. I think inflation is caused by incompetence. I think that's the incompetence is such a big problem that we fail to address it. What's up?
It's every day. Traffic is caused by incompetence.
I'm sure.
So totally. So here's Dirk is challenging you, I think. I think this is a sarcastic comment. Some say the fictional character in Lamb had 2 arms. Coincidence? He's making fun of you. I think. But, and Jock, the movie was made before the event, 11 years before the event. That's what's significant. And I think it is interesting. I think he might be making fun of the red jacket thing, which is not you, actually. It's the author. That is kind of a stretch. But the character, the kid, drowning in the water.
Cece. Her name was Cece. The red shirt alone, that's a stretch. But when combined, and that's how these
I'm not even as impressed with Cece, but the situation that the kid drowned in the water and then this water contaminated the drinking water. That to me,
Dahlia,
pretty
Cece, cool. Water tank, bad water, red shirt. I mean, again, when you combine all of these, and honestly, this is another thing with conspiracy theories. You can connect everything. You can connect. I mean, that's what the best fiction relies on these connections. In fact, the story that I'm writing right now, I'm doing an homage to Burma Shave. Burma Shave came out in the year 1924. The Hotel Cecil was built in the year 24. Burma Shave started doing their advertising with the rhyming signs in 1927. The doors to the Hotel Cecil were opened in 1927. There's a lot of correlations that I've discovered in doing this and writing this story that I'm creating. I'm pulling out of thin air, but they're there. There's connections there. Now, people could point and say, oh, clearly there's something going on here. And so we see that a lot. We can find these connections if we look hard enough. But this is freaking weird. I mean, like these connections are like, this is synchronicity.
Eric had made a good point. I'm less inclined for government, more prone to believe in private corporations, especially more than one in tandem, which is, I don't know why people don't go there more often. Individuals or corporations are much more secretive. I mean, you don't have to share much with anything. As you know, when you're a business owner, you can kind of get away with a lot. There's not much people watching you. You can
Well,
do,
no.
you know, I mean, you can get
Well,
away
that's why.
with a lot.
So, okay, so that's why typically conspiracy theorists will then say, well, the governments use, they outsource, they use black ops and whatnot, and they use corporations. So it is hidden because corporations can hide stuff under protective acts. Different laws will protect government, individual, independent secrets, corporate secrets and whatnot. They can legally get away with doing that. So conspiracy theorists will say that's why they're using this. That's why it's corporations and whatnot.
It's still kind of funny because it's the government using the companies, and which is still very flawed. Where I think the best mindset is the companies using the government. I mean, the companies are using the government to get projects and money
off the ground, funding,
and they're the ones who have
protection.
the schemes and the plans and have the ultimate accuracy. So I agree with Eric. So does Dirk, it looks like. Was there more? We're kind of getting over.
Well, now we get to the book. So
Okay.
The book itself, the way it reads, it covers all of these different things, of course. This came out this year, actually, which I think is kind of late for this case. But
well, it's only been 7 years.
That's true.
Isn't that long.
But rather than like just a straight up crime book on facts, the author, he takes an empathetic approach towards it because he also suffers from depression and he's gone on and off medication. And so things that he thought sounded suspicious at first and paranormal, when he does his own experiments with his medication, he's like, no, I can actually see how a person could get themselves in, as weird as it looks like, into this weird situation of getting into the water tank. Psychologists have also looked at, or psychiatrists rather, have also looked at the case and said, well, looking at her behavior and weird things do happen. But granted, it does happen in this weird place. Your mind will automatically go to the paranormal first rather than look, this is a sick person. This is a person suffering from, different types of depression, different forms of depression, manic depression, actually bipolar is what they call it now. But and on different medications that she may have been off of. You can get yourself in a frenzy and make yourself up to this roof. Maybe you think you're hiding from somebody. Maybe you think you're getting away from somebody.
Right.
So there is that element to consider too. And more often than not, online, because this case really blew up web sleuths. Web sleuthism pretty much began around this case, or really came to its head, I think, around this story. And a lot of great ones online, like Brain Scratch. I follow Brain Scratch online. I used to, anyways. I used to listen to him a lot. John Landstrom, I think his name is. But he created the site, our YouTube channel called Brain Scratch. A lot of great stories. He digs into it, and he tries to encourage people to web sleuth and figure out a lot of these unsolved cases. And I believe the Elisa Lam case was one of his first ones. And he's touched upon a little bit. He's given a little bit of credit in this book too, for those of you interested in checking out some other unsolved crimes and hopefully solving some of them. And so that's what web sleuths are. They have a couple sites online. Reddit has a page, a subreddit dedicated to it. But it's different people from around the world, from all walks of life, trying to solve these crimes, which can be a good thing. Can also be a bad thing too, because you get off on these conspiracy type tangent rabbit holes. But this book covers all that. So it gives a little bit of attention to web sleuths and how this author discovered that himself, that these things exist. But he parallels his own life and his own bouts of depression with her. And the thing about this case is not a lot of information was given. Sure, you got the film of the elevator. There's supposedly more footage the cops never released. The parents never talked to the media, something you really don't see a lot in cases like this. Typically, the parents go to the media. But her parents are, they're immigrants living in Canada. I'm not sure if they speak English or not. They own a restaurant up there, but they never went to the media, really. The cops never released anything too much to the media. And the hotel itself, because they were getting sued by the parents at one point, also weren't talking to the media. So there's a lot of hush-hush. And that in itself is ripe for conspiracy theory. Yeah. So what he relied on in writing this book was Elisa Lam's Tumblr, her blog online, which she kept. Oh, another awesome thing is after she was dead, months later after she was dead, her Tumblr account was still getting new articles uploaded to it, which is weird. And her phone was missing. So some people suspect the killer's out there posting. And in fact, the first post after her death was the Hermit, the tarot card, the Hermit popped. And people are like, what is this? So they think that she had some type of aggregator on and had articles to be released in the future or not. Yeah. So that was going on. But her online life was there. I mean, she was also listing where she was going, what she was doing. She was talking about meetups while she was traveling her West Coast tour. But she was really into her Tumblr account. So he used all of her different blogs to piece together what was going on in her head. So it's really an in-depth look at her, and it humanizes her for the first time, rather than just be this phantom figure online, wrapped in this paranormal blanket. It really puts a human element to it, and his relation to her, our parallel life, is what really this book is about. It's very autobiographical in regards to the author, Jake Anderson, digging into her case.
Because I think Dirk even said, I see paranormal, I see mental health issues and sadness, and it's really sad. And even about it, as weird as it could be and unlikely as people think it may be, the best solution, the most likely solution, was that she did make her way up there and somehow purposely or accidentally, is all on her own.
It could have been accident. He speculates that if she did accidentally get in there, when she hit the water, she realized then there's no way getting out of here. There's no way to get out of that hatch. If people were using the water level was so low that she could not reach up there. She takes off all her clothes, possibly due to hypothermia, or she might have been trying to stop the water from going down anymore, to alert the maintenance crew or what. Who knows what was going through her head. The fact of the matter is she probably drowned in there. No one's going to hear her screaming because she's inside a water tank. So that in itself is horrific if that's what happened. It's a very, very bizarre case. This is a great read. This is the only book I was able to find on this. I'm sure there's more self-published stuff on Amazon that you could download, but it's a great read. It reads, so I'm probably 150 pages into it after only having it for a couple days. I'm almost done with it, but it's really been a page turner in itself. I like books like that, that really, suck you in. Obviously we all do, but this one has really been it's been a good read so far. I'll talk more about it when I finish it. But again, I've just picked up my own research in a story I'm writing that I'll tell you all about as we get close to that. And what I'm using for bookmarks is actually postcards I've made of the Hotel Cecil that have to do with my story, based on actual postcards, vintage postcards.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we better wrap this. We're already over, and I've got to run. Jacovega says nightmare stuff. This
nightmare
is really
fuel.
weird. And I think we should maybe even do like a little mini documentary on this case.
We probably should.
Because
what do you mean?
Just go out there and interview some people and put something together. Because even if that is what happened, we think is what it was, because of its relation with Black Dahlia, which we could do our own documentary on. The cultural significance.
Yeah, and there really is. I mean, this is the kicker. And we were watching this in real time. I mean, this thing first gained interest because of the elevator scene, and that was before she was discovered, right there. So it was setting itself up for this. I mean, it could have ended right there and been weird. She could have disappeared forever. But then finding her in the tank after the fact. I mean, there's so many weird elements to this and twists and turns. To have it end with just psychosis is almost a disappointment. And I don't mean to sound like that, but I mean, it's like, if that's all it was, I mean, this, but
no, I know
just
what
the way
you mean. Because I was really upset because I assumed she was raped and then killed and her body was dumped. That's what I assumed. And you don't want to blame the victim. And it was because I had that mindset at the beginning, and I'm like, they need to find the bad guy.
Yeah.
So set on that. it was harder to transition to what likely was the issue. And that's interesting. And I think a lot of people experience that.
Yeah, it really has had its ups and downs. I remember getting into this when it was happening and just being like, this is so, I can't wait to go visit this place. Like, this is like, I mean, it's just loaded with weirdness. So very interesting story, very interesting case, very interesting book, folks. Gone at Midnight by Jake Anderson. If you can pick it up, it's a great read. It's got some great photos in it as well. But
Plus,
yeah, I love this story.
Something weird will probably happen.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Anyways, folks, thanks for tuning in for this week's episode of What Am I Reading?
You're going to be the weird thing that happens to that hotel.
I will probably be I will definitely, again, I couldn't approach it when I was there on the scene. Frances, I don't even remember this, but she's like, you would not go in, you wouldn't get any closer. You were acting really weird. I've never seen you like that. And I have no recollection of that. I don't know what
I don't
but
remember
my goal
telling me this.
Weird,
sure,
right?
You told us that because we were hanging the whole time. I don't even know when you guys could have done this because we were all there. So
we took an Uber over there. Yeah, we took an Uber over there. Like, I mean, my intent was to go to the Hotel Cecil. I don't know why I didn't get any closer to it than, like, 2 buildings away. But she said you wouldn't go any closer. It was weird. I don't remember this.
Huh. That's weird.
It's just like this dread, this lingering dread as you get close to the building must have stopped me like a wall. I don't know. It's bizarre. But again, we can do this to ourselves.
All right. Well, yeah, we should wrap it up. We've gone over. Thank you to our international group. We have people from Jock is actually in Scotland. Rodrigo, I forget where you are, Rodrigo. You're in
California, I think.
No, he's in like South America or something.
That's for that.
We had someone from the UK in here. So yeah, we got people from all over the world talking with us about this. And it's funny because Jock knows so much about a lot of these things, these American stories.
It's great though, the interaction we get live, but after the fact, once this video is up, sometimes it just goes dead. There's no comments. The only person commenting is like some Asian bot that is, I think, Square Beautiful or something like that. Guys, if you can after the fact go to these videos and give them a thumbs up or make a comment, because a lot of your comments are great here. It doesn't cross over onto the after the fact once they're posted. So I think I would love for you to do that just to show some activity there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I cry myself to sleep.
I always forget, but I should be asking people, to like the video,
comment, subscribe.
And
let us know what you want us to look into too, because I was talking before the show about pulling some people on to interview about paranormal stuff. If there's someone we should check out or contact, and I mean, this is a new show. We're still trying to understand what it is and where it's going to go. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah. So put that in the comments, in the actual comments, and not the little chat. So after we're done, but thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Doug. Another great story. And, I guess we'll even talk about this some more, I'm sure, in the future.
Mind-boggling. We'll revisit this for sure. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next week.
Adios, dudes.